doesn't.
Broadcasting live from Houston, from the space city to the world. You are watching NowMedia Television.
Hello and welcome, everybody. It is our great pleasure to welcome you again to our weekly show, which is called Legal Talk with Natalia and Mac. My name is Natalia and I am speaking from Warsaw, Poland. I am an attorney and mediator. And the co-host for this show is my partner in crime.
And hi, this is Mac Pierre-Louis, attorney, mediator, and arbitrator, working throughout Florida and Texas.
And again, we are having our great resource and a fantastic person and friend, Fran Brochstein, who is an attorney and mediator, and who is here with us and sacrificed her time and energy to explain to us something that is of utmost importance. We will be talking about the do's and don'ts in the client-attorney relationship. Things that you should be doing, things that you shouldn't be doing to your attorney, and what you can expect in exchange. And Fran is a perfect person for that because she's also serving on a committee that is judging and supervising the ethical rules, how they're being preserved by attorneys practicing in her area. Fran, once again, this is a great pleasure to have you. It's always a pleasure to listen to you. And please tell us a few words about what you are actually doing now in your practice and about what it is that we can expect from you, also from your website, which is familylawforyou.com.
I've been an attorney for over 30 years. I've been mediating for over 20. This year, I am the president, and I'm very honored to be the president of the Texas Association of Mediators, and I'm also on the board of my local bar association, the Highland Lakes Bar Association. And I love mediation. I find it much more fulfilling than ever being an attorney. And so I thank you for allowing me this opportunity to spread the word about the importance of mediation and how to be a good client.
All right. Well, Fran, welcome back. As usual, it's always good to hear you. So this topic of do's and don'ts when it comes to working with your lawyer is a big deal. As you know, I've been practicing law for a while, and as a baby lawyer, I used to go to you as a mediator out in the Houston area years ago to help me settle some of my cases. But ever since then and up until now, in this industry, sometimes we lawyers deal with the same routine things over and over again. And so let's go through the list, Fran. I know you've, before the break, we're discussing with us a few highlights, a few points that you want to remind people, hey, don't do this or do more of this. So could I start with one, Fran, because that I know that you've discussed, and that is don't threaten or yell at your attorney. And when I was reading this one, I was thinking, people need to remember something. Your lawyer is probably already being threatened by the court, the opposing counsel, and all the other people who are involved. Last thing they need is for you to contribute to it. What are your thoughts of that?
Well, when I had staff, I used to say, if you scream at my staff, I'm going to fire you because I don't pay them enough for them to be abused. So I do believe that it's a two-way street. The attorney should treat the client with respect, and the client should treat the attorney and the attorney staff with respect and at least being, civil. I understand because I did divorce law for many years. It's highly emotional, and often people would scream and holler. So I didn't take it personal, but I could not stand someone that was disrespectful or screaming and cussing out and threatening my staff. And especially in family law, it's a very, very emotional time. It's one of the worst times in a person's life. But that's still no reason to be nasty to staff. And I think it's important that people, before they hire a lawyer, to hire someone that they feel comfortable with and that they trust. I would tell people, if you don't trust what I'm saying, then you need to get another lawyer, because at some point, especially in the divorce process, if I tell you this is a deal you should take, you've got to trust the knowledge and the experience that I have, that I am doing the right thing for you. And so there were times when I would tell a client, I don't think I'm a good fit for you. And I would give a reference to another attorney that I thought would be a better fit. And I think I got good reviews because I did that. If I wasn't communicating effectively at the first meeting with a client, then I would want to send them to someone else.
Okay, I take that. You need to communicate with your attorney effectively, and you need to be polite. Kindness is the key to success in many fields. I think that in law in particular. But I do think something that is here an absolute thing of foundation, which is telling your attorney the entire truth. I don't think we can underestimate how important it can get in the court. Imagine your attorney being just taken aback with the fact that they hear from another party that you just omitted out of shame, out of some other reasons, and then attorney doesn't know the entire truth of the story that happened. And on top, sometimes the clients do tend to blame the attorneys for the results, especially bad results, if things like that happen. What can you say about it?
Well, what I used to tell my clients is what occurs in my office with the door shut is between them and me, no one else. I am their advocate. So I need to know the good and the bad. I can minimize the bad if I know about it ahead of time, but it's not good to be in front of the judge and hear the other side of the story. I'll give an example. I had a client, and her soon-to-be ex was a very nasty man that had beaten her. It was a domestic violence case. But unfortunately, the day that we went to court, she did a little cocaine before we had our hearing. And the judge decided to drug test both of the people, and my client failed. And she, even though I truly believe she should have had custody because of his violence towards him, towards the lady and her children, he got primary custody. And he was mad at me, and because I didn't get her custody. I said, but I didn't make you do cocaine this morning. So that's one of my worst case stories. Now, I will tell you, we split ways, and a year later, she came back to me. She said, you're absolutely right. She then followed my advice, and I got her custody. But in that particular case, there was nothing I could do. Once you test positive for drugs in front of a judge, that is very bad.
Yeah, absolutely. It'll never cease to amaze us, what some of our clients will do. But what do you think about this one? And that is the client who expects you to work for nothing, or give them a discount that is so unreasonable that it practically is expecting you to work for nothing, especially when you have student loans you got to take care of. This one's a big one because a lot of lawyers talk about it privately. Our clients might not be aware of it, but sometimes we lawyers discuss, what is going on with me in my practice. What do you think about this one, Fran?
Well, since I've been an attorney, when I first became licensed, I worked for 5 years at Houston Volunteer Lawyers as a staff attorney. I have always personally done a lot of pro bono. I try to do at least 30 hours a year. Many years, especially since COVID, I've been doing over 100 hours a year of pro bono. But I like to pick and choose my pro bono. I don't like involuntary pro bono. So all an attorney sells is their knowledge, their experience, and many times it looks like we don't know what's going on, but a lot of times I don't always share everything going on behind the scenes, so the client doesn't need to have any more burden because they're going through a very difficult time. But I still had to make payroll, and I still had to pay the rent. And so I always made it a practice to give people some no charge calls and things. But an attorney charges for the emails, the phone calls, the text, and that's just the nature of the beast. And so there, unfortunately, if your income is limited, don't hire an expensive hourly attorney. For example, there are attorneys in Houston that charge $750 or more an hour. And if you can't afford an hourly rate like that, you need to find someone recently graduated from law school that's charging maybe $150 or $250 an hour. And they're out there. You just have to look for them. You can call the $950 an hour lawyer and say, I can't afford you. Can you send me to someone a little cheaper? And usually those attorneys know the younger attorneys. But don't hire a Cadillac attorney if you only have the money for a VW.
Fran, it is always such a pleasure to be talking with you on all these topics. We love all the pieces of wisdom you share with us, and your website is always a place to know more about you, which is familylawforyou.com. And we will see you again for some more topics on attorney-client relationships, do's and don'ts, after the short break.
Hey, Lily says AT&T is giving everyone their best deals.
Minus the air quotes.
Best deals.
No need to wink. Others say they give everyone a deal, but not everyone gets the best deal.
Told you, the best deals are for everyone here, with a choice of plans.
You were right.
Is she always right?
Always.
At AT&T, we give everyone our best deals on every smartphone.
Hello, my name is Charles Sanders, and I'm a personal injury attorney with the Rose Sanders Law Firm, based in Texas and with offices in Houston, Dallas, McAllen, and El Paso. We assist individuals throughout the entire state who have suffered harm due to the negligence of another person. With my experience as an insurance adjuster, I understand and I know exactly how to counter the strategies employed by insurance companies, and I'm bringing this knowledge to you. We handle a wide variety of situations, ranging from car accidents to defamation and unsafe property conditions. We are here to provide support and legal representation at no cost to you. Call us today at 713-221-3773.
Welcome back to Legal Talk, and we're back with Fran Brochstein, our colleague who is a lawyer, mediator, and all around great lady, and what she has to give as far as wisdom is concerned. So Fran, continuing with the discussion, the do's and don'ts, what are, I would say, in your opinion, on your list of do's and don'ts, what would you say is the worst thing? Because we talked about not being paid a second ago. That's pretty bad. But what else do you think is probably the worst on the list?
not responding to the attorney, kind of disappearing, and because many times if there's a hearing or something coming up, the attorney needs to meet with you to get ready for a hearing or trial, and especially if they get a request to bring in some paperwork, not doing it in a prompt manner, because especially in Texas, we have deadlines. And if you don't answer and respond to things in a timely manner, it can definitely hurt your case. So that's very important. And then expecting your attorney to answer you in the middle of the night, 6 a.m., or on weekends. Attorneys need a break too. And I've actually had people get mad when they called me at 6 o'clock on a Friday that I did not respond over the weekend, and by Monday at 8 a.m. they're screaming at me, "It's been 2 days, you haven't responded." And I'm like, I have a life. Attorneys need to take a break. There is an issue, especially with divorce lawyers, of burnout. And so we purposely do encourage each other to do a lot of self-care, because I used to worry about my clients 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I'd be thinking of them in the shower and getting dressed and driving down the freeway, because you just can't shut it off. And so I think that is a very important thing to realize, and to be patient with your attorney. It goes a long way also saying thank you and to be appreciative. We don't make the fact. We are your advocate. We are there beside you. I used to tell my clients, I walk beside you, but at some point, you're going to go on your own. And I'm here to help and support you, but I am not a licensed therapist. And many times I would send my clients and encourage them to go into counseling, to learn to get stronger, and and if their spouse was pushing all their buttons, to learn ways of not letting their buttons be pushed.
And I'm telling my clients that I'm a lawyer and not a magician. So I can do only as much as I can do with the facts, information, proofs, evidence that they are giving me. So the more efficient they are with providing materials for me, the happier they can be about the result of the case. However, there are moments in the client-attorney relationship when you believe the thing as an attorney that the best way is not to fight anymore, but to settle. What can you say if someone is actually not following your advice on that?
Well, what I find is that the cost of litigation these days is so expensive. And in Texas, before you could go to trial, the Texas Supreme Court has mandated you will mediate your case. And the reason that's being done is because it has been proven over the last 30 years that mediation is successful. It moves the cases through. The judges like it. And a lot of times, the situation is very emotional. I used to say I hardly ever practice law. I'm usually an unlicensed therapist, because family law in particular, or elder law, those are emotional driven. It's not like you're doing something technical like real estate or like business. Those are more fact driven. Divorce, family law, child custody, elder care, that's an emotional, that's very hard. I used to tell my clients, a divorce or an end of a relationship is the death of your relationship. It's the end of your hopes and dreams and plans for the future. And you need to take some time to heal before you move on to another relationship, and to learn who you are.
Fran, one of the most important things that I was taught in law school was that the number one concern of our clients is not getting a response back. Okay, contacting the lawyer and not hearing back about their case, not being kept in the loop, not knowing what's going on. A lot of us lawyers have systems. We use a service called mycase.com, for example, in our office, where I tell my clients, listen, you never have an excuse not to hear back from me, okay? All you gotta do is make sure you message me on this application, and I will see it because I live on my case. I'm always on my case. And never more than 1, maybe 2 days max goes by where that client doesn't hear back. If it skips me, it's only because something happened that I didn't catch it. But we lawyers know that. Well, we should. And so what would you say is a reasonable amount of time? Earlier you had said, well, if somebody messages you and then they get mad at you for not responding so prompt after the weekend. But what would you say is a reasonable amount of time to give your lawyer to respond?
Well, there are attorneys with a large staff, and hopefully someone in the office will reply. There were times I had staff and other times where I found it easier not to have staff. So I did most of the work myself. I had a receptionist. He worked remotely, but I did all the work myself. It depends. And I would tell my client that. I made a point of touching each client at least once a month. Maybe it'd be an email saying, hi, nothing's going on. I'll let you know as soon as something's going on. But if I was in a trial, I am working all day and I have to get ready the next day for the next trial. If it was a multi-day trial, that is a lot of work. And so it's unreasonable to expect an attorney to respond. Hopefully, what I would do is let them know I'm not going to be available the next few days. I have a trial. But when your trial comes up, I will be there for you. And so I used to give out my cell phone number. A lot of attorneys don't do that anymore. But it did not bother me. If I was available, I picked up the phone. I still do it 7 days a week, but I don't. I've actually picked up the phone at 3 a.m. and talked to drunk people. They woke me up and I picked up the phone and what's interesting is they freaked out. I've had several people freak out. And on the other hand, I had people from Europe hire me because I was at my office at 9 o'clock at night working to get ready for a case. And the guy said, you're the only one that picked up the phone. I'm going to hire you. And I said, and I'm the only idiot that's still working at 9 o'clock at night at my office.
It's funny.
But I enjoyed being hands-on. I came to law in my 30s. This is a second career for me. I got some bad legal advice, which is why I went to law school. And so I always treated my clients like they were my family. And I would tell them that. I'm going to be tough on you, but I'm going to do the very best I can. And I did screen my clients. I did not accept every case. And some people got mad at me. And I said, let me explain to you, especially as I got older and had a few years of experience. When you're interviewing me, I'm interviewing you to determine if I want to be your lawyer. And there were people that I said, I'm sorry, I'm not the lawyer for you. And they were usually shocked.
Yeah, and no matter what, there might be moments where the client-attorney relationship needs to end, right? And sometimes it will be the attorney, as you said, who will finish this relationship. But sometimes this is also the clients who have the right to say, sorry, I'm not pleased with the service. I'm actually not getting things that I expected to or we agreed upon. And tell us, Fran, what do you think is a moment when you should consider changing the attorney?
Well, I mean, if the attorney is MIA, that's a biggie. Now, I have had that phone call, and in a couple of cases, I hate to say it, the attorney was either hospitalized or was deceased. And so if you don't hear from your attorney every month, you should call them, text them, email them. And I've told people go by their office. I mean, especially after a hurricane that came through, there were a lot of attorneys that literally had their offices destroyed and they lost, their computers were gone. They lost everything. And in that case, a lot of Houston attorneys got together and tried to help each other. But there are times when attorneys have a personal crisis. I was going to mediate a case and my mother died. I had to call the attorneys and cancel the mediation the next day. I mean, even though she passed away very suddenly, I had to take care of my calendar. And I just basically called everyone and said, and posted on Facebook, my mother died. I'm disappearing for a while. And so that's life happens.
So Fran, well, thank you for sharing that. That's the kind of thing that's happened to a whole lot of us. And most judges are very considerate of it, of course, but sometimes clients aren't, unless they know, of course. I mean, I would say most clients would be, but they need to know. And so we lawyers always need to take care of our own mental health in our own personal lives and make sure the public knows some of these things that's going on. So one of the things I've told my clients, friends, especially at mediation, and this will be the last one because we're running out of time, is don't corner the other side. If you're trying to negotiate a settlement, don't give the other side their worst day in court as their option. Because you're going to guarantee they're going to fight you and go to the judge. Like we always say, if someone's going to get screwed over, they're either going to get screwed over by themselves or by the court. And most people are going to choose to let a judge do it. So this is, I guess, one of my pet peeves is where the client doesn't listen to me and they want to take it to the edge and fight and fight and fight, when sometimes it's worth trying to work out a deal, because the deal that you make might actually be better than the deal that the judge might screw you over with. And so what do you think about that? Sometimes when parties just don't listen to their attorney because they think that the lawyer's not fighting enough for them, when in actuality, the lawyer just kind of sees the future, has done this before, and is concerned that you might be going down a path that you're going to regret. What are your thoughts about it?
Well, I tell people, and I've said it again today, a good lawyer knows the law. A great lawyer knows the judge.
And pounds the table. All right. So with that, Fran, go ahead and close us out. How can people get a hold of you? We talked about your website earlier, familylawforyou.com, but where are you located? And I believe you're practicing across the whole state, right?
Yes, I've left Houston. I'm in the Texas Hill Country, and thanks to Zoom and COVID, and also to you, Mac, because you drugged me into Zoom kicking and screaming. You told me you would teach me how to do it so I could mediate for you, but I now mediate all over Texas. I'm not comfortable going outside of Texas because other states have different rules regarding mediators. And like I said, I love it. I do in person up here, but I'm finding most attorneys really enjoy the Zoom because they don't have to travel, and it saves their clients money. And I am finding that generally my settlement rate is about the same. So my phone number, my office number is 713-847-6000.
Fran, it's always a pleasure, and thank you for being our wisdom, our resource, our smile on all those difficult topics. You treat with such a grace that they seem very light, whereas sometimes it's about people's dramas, people's tragedies, and this is why you are able to help, and we really feel very grateful to be able to count you as our friends. Thank you so much, Fran, and I'm sure we'll invite you again. Thank you.
God bless you. Have a great day.
We'll see each other after the break.
Okay.
¿Quieres que tu negocio crezca y todo parece indicar que el camino es Estados Unidos? Te dijeron que abras una LLC para que no pagues impuestos, mas no tienes idea de cómo hacerlo. Soy Edmundo Treviño y quiero compartir contigo más de 20 años como empresario en Estados Unidos para que tú no te equivoques en los mismos errores que yo ya realicé. Sígueme en todas las redes sociales para que juntos conquistemos el mercado americano.
En esta era digital, las tarjetas de presentación de negocio son cosa del pasado. De hecho, la mayoría de las personas que las reciben las pierden en cuestión de minutos. La videotarjeta de negocios de NowMedia es un video de su negocio especialmente creado por nuestros expertos con toda su información de contacto, los productos y servicios de su negocio y puede ser enviado de manera rápida utilizando su teléfono móvil. Cientos de negocios ya están viendo la diferencia. Llámenos hoy al 832-384-9588.
Hello, my name is Charles Sanders, and I'm a personal injury attorney with the Rose Sanders Law Firm, based in Texas and with offices in Houston, Dallas, McAllen, and El Paso. We assist individuals throughout the entire state who have suffered harm due to the negligence of another person. With my experience as an insurance adjuster, I understand and I know exactly how to counter the strategies employed by insurance companies, and I'm bringing this knowledge to you. We handle a wide variety of situations ranging from car accidents to defamation and unsafe property conditions. We are here to provide support and legal representation at no cost to you. Call us today at 713-221-3773.
¿Quieres que tu negocio crezca y todo parece indicar que el camino es Estados Unidos? Te dijeron que abras una LLC para que no pagues impuestos, mas no tienes idea de cómo hacerlo. Soy Edmundo Treviño y quiero compartir contigo más de 20 años como empresario en Estados Unidos para que tú no te equivoques en los mismos errores que yo ya realicé. Sígueme en todas las redes sociales para que juntos conquistemos el mercado americano.
Hey, welcome back. So in this next segment, we are about to discuss something with a lawyer that many people in the audience might not be familiar with, and that is something called board certification. You might hear of the phrase board certified lawyer. What does that even mean? And so right now we have a lawyer who is board certified. Her name is Yasmin Cutty. She's a good friend of mine. Actually, we go back many, many years as practicing attorneys, but I wanted to have her on to discuss herself, her practice, and what it means to be a board certified family law attorney. Yasmin, are you there?
Hi, welcome, Yasmin. Welcome. We really want to welcome you, and it's great to have you with us.
Thank you, Natalie. Mac, to answer your question, an attorney, the Family Law Board Certification Specialty Area was created in 1975 by the Texas Board of Specialty Certification, and at last count, there were about 838 attorneys in the entire state of Texas that are board certified in family law. Family law covers a wide range of family law issues, from marriage, divorce proceedings, legal custody, and adoption, to distribution of assets and ownership of property acquired before and during the marriage. And a board certified attorney is expected to understand all aspects of marriage and property dissolution, including conservatorship, child support, and marital property. It's quite a lengthy application process. A few, less than 100, I think, attorneys qualify to sit for the test every year, and then maybe out of 100 attorneys, anywhere from 20 to 30 actually pass the exam and are considered board certified. So it was one of my dreams and goals to achieve this, and I worked really hard to try to make this happen, and I was board certified in December of 2022.
And Yasmin, so tell us a little bit more about the board certification process. I know you've explained that the test is really difficult. It's 100 people sit for it every year and only a quarter pass it. But what does it mean to you in terms of being a board certified lawyer? How does that set you apart from most other attorneys? I mean, I think I'm a good lawyer, but I'm not board certified, not yet anyway. But how does it set you apart?
Well, I wanted to answer your question. I would say there's a two-part answer. One is, you do not need to be board certified in the state of Texas to have a good, solid, nice practice. in family law at all. I think that if you can achieve board certification, it allows you to get more high conflict cases. And the process involves having a certain number of high conflict trials that you've completed from start to finish, temporary orders hearings that you've done from start to finish, conducting, hosting, and actually participating in a number of mediations, having a track record of motion practice, and if you've done any appellate work and or jury trials. And you have to quantify and show the board that you've done a certain number of these over a 5-year, 3-year time span, and submit that. That's one of the components of the application process, plus letters of recommendation, etc. Once you qualify to sit for the exam, you have to study for two parts, which is one is the multiple choice section and the other are the essay questions. And it is a timed all-day exam that is very, very rapid fire. You've got to know the material pretty well. It's probably, I found, harder to study for the board exam than it was to sit for the bar examination. I think once you pass and qualify, I think there's an understanding that you know the case law, you understand the Texas Family Code pretty thoroughly, and that you can actually litigate your cases in court and do that with some level of competence, understand motion practice, how to get certain types of evidence into evidence, how to prepare your client for a proper direct examination, how to conduct a cross-examination, and really, know how to marshal your evidence to win a case. And I think that does set an attorney apart if they are board certified. It's not an end all be all, but it definitely sets you apart. I hope that answers your question, Mac.
Yeah,
and Yasmin, you are also a mediator. And
Yes.
So you have just mentioned that you've been qualifying to have more high conflict cases, whereas as a mediator, you are doing a totally opposite thing because you are bringing those people of high conflict to some sort of an agreement. How do you combine the two?
Well, that's a great question. I feel that whether the case is high conflict or low conflict, mediation, as you know, is an opportunity for the parties to come together and try to come up with an agreement, have some control over the kind of agreement that they're going to reach, and come up with a creative custom settlement that they may not ever get in court. And I think that you're always better off reaching an agreement at mediation than necessarily trying it in front of a judge and never quite knowing what a judge is actually how the judge is going to take the evidence and how the judge is going to make a ruling. And so I do feel that the majority of family law cases do settle at mediation. So whether it's high conflict or low conflict, I think coming in extremely prepared, if you have a complex property division, having all the backup documents, a couple of different scenarios of how to divide up the assets, if custody is an issue, having all of your eggs in a basket with all your evidence and what your argument's going to be, and actually bring it to the mediator and explain the background carefully so that the mediator has the education and background and that you're equipped the mediator with the knowledge that they need to actually negotiate a settlement. So I think that if my experience in that kind of thing would be helpful, bringing in a high conflict case to mediation, because I'll come in very well prepared and have the file organized so the mediator can take that information and try to come up with a good settlement for the parties.
Yeah, and I can vouch for that. I've worked with lawyers in your office before, Yasmin, and one thing that I can definitely say when I've mediated for you is that your team always came prepared, where they had memo written, documents that the mediator needs to do their job. So greatly appreciate that from personal experience. But wanted to bring something to the viewers' attention. One thing people might not know about Yasmin is that she's, and correct me if I'm wrong, Yasmin, but I believe you're licensed in 3 states, right?
Yes, Mac. I have passed the Illinois bar and the New York State bar, and but I'm inactive at this point. So I don't practice anymore in Illinois, nor do I practice in New York. I've just limited my practice to Texas, but I have been admitted to the bar of the state of New York, and I've also been admitted in the state of Illinois as well. But I do really, in the last decade or so, have narrowed it down to really focusing on Texas family law.
Yeah, and if I could follow up on the other thing people might not be familiar with when it comes to you is that just like me, we first met while working inside of the office of the Attorney General's office in Texas. And so, but before that, you used to work for the New York AG's office under Andrew Cuomo. Can you tell us a little bit about that experience? And I mean, you've done everything basically, and now you're board certified, so it's quite a feat.
Thank you, Matt. I actually moved to Texas in 2010, and I had worked for about 6 years with the New York State Attorney General's office doing consumer fraud litigation. I was hired under Eliot Spitzer, and I served under Andrew Cuomo, who was then the Attorney General prior to his becoming the governor of the state of New York. And I was able to, I mean, actually, I feel like I apply my consumer fraud skills to my family law practice, and that I did a lot of investigations of investment banks, brokerage houses, white collar fraud in the state of New York. I had to look through a lot of financial documents, tax returns, people's investment portfolios to figure out if there was any, laws being violated, civil laws being violated in the state of New York. And I took that white collar fraud investigative knowledge when I moved to Texas and applied that to my family law practice now, when especially dealing with high conflict, high asset divorces that have property, finances, investment portfolios, and I was able to apply those skills successfully. And going back to what you were saying, we met at the Attorney General's office in the child support division. I was able to really fine tune my child support family law skills early on when I moved from New York to Texas, and then I kind of used the child support division experience to open up my own family law practice, Mac.
Always when we are having someone who is a practicing attorney, it is great to tell something, what they consider their mission or what they consider their passion in their profession. Can you tell us in a few words what really motivates you to do what you do, what you find pleasure with, what makes you happy when you accomplish something for your clients?
Thank you, Natalie. That's a great question. In response to your question, I would say there's two issues that hit home with me. First is the prevention of child abuse. I have spent a lot of time working with nonprofit organizations in Fort Bend County and in Harris County with organizations that deal with trying to help with child abuse prevention. I do court-appointed CPS cases where I represent children as an enlightening. I also serve as an amicus, as an extension of the court in representing the best interests of children, making sure their rights are protected. And early on in my career, before I was with the Attorney General, I also spent a lot of time representing victims of domestic violence in getting protective orders. And not only in my private practice do I get protective orders for folks, I also defend people who have maybe been falsely accused of domestic violence. I've done both sides of I've been on both sides of the table. But I think it's important for people to get proper representation when it comes to family violence and child abuse prevention issues.
All right, Yasmin, as we start wrapping up, tell us what's the best way people can get a hold of you and also where you practice, because Texas is a big state.
Yes, Mac, thank you. My main headquarters is in Sugar Land. You can visit me at www.cuttylawfirm.com. Our office number is 713-568-5401 and hit 0 to speak with our receptionist. We also have an office at the River Oaks Tower in Upper Kirby in Houston. And our phone numbers are on the website. We have people answering the phone from 8 o'clock in the morning until 5 o'clock in the evening. Try to return phone calls and emails within 24 hours. And customer service is very, very important to us. We try to get in and get out. I think Texas law is very straightforward about family law. You should be able to go to mediation prepared and settle your case and not have to go to court to get a divorce or any other type of handle any other type of family law matter. Thank you.
Awesome.
It's been great having you with us, and thank you. We hope to host you in the future for our next episode. And now we will invite our viewers for a short break.
Thank you.
¿Sueñas con vender tus productos o servicios en Estados Unidos? Pareciera muy difícil, mas no es imposible. Soy Edmundo Treviño y quiero compartir contigo más de 20 años de experiencia promoviendo productos latinoamericanos en el principal mercado del mundo. Si quieres aprender más, sígueme en todas mis redes sociales.
Hey, Lily says AT&T is giving everyone their best deals.
Minus the air quotes.
Best deals.
No need to wink. Others say they give everyone a deal, but not everyone gets the best deal.
Told you, the best deals are for everyone here, with a choice of plans.
You're right.
Is she always right?
Always.
At AT&T, we give everyone our best deals on every smartphone.
Hi everyone, this is Mac PLE. Welcome back to Legal Talk. So we are now entering this segment where we're talking to Brett Lovett of FamilyReconcile.com about what is Family Reconcile, what is family reconciliation, why did this idea come about, and just learn about the methodology that he's used in order to help people with this particular problem around the world. And that is, what do you do when you have a broken relationship with somebody that you care for? So, Brett, are you there?
I'm here. Thank you. Good to see you
Brett,
too.
Welcome back. You know, you, me, and Natalia, we've had a lot of time to discuss this topic because it was one of our topics that we discussed for, 6 to 8 months. We went through an entire series on Family Reconcile. Now, even though this legal show is talking about lawyers and business people, it also talks about relationships in business, relationships in litigation, relationships with the courts, relationships with each other. So this is connected to what you do at Family Reconcile. So can you go through this for us? What is Family Reconcile, and then connect it for us with how this might impact somebody who is dealing with a legal problem as well?
Thank you. So, Family Reconcile, though it's named Family Reconcile, is really about relationship reconciliation. So what I mean by that is it's not only applicable to, families, families, interpersonal relationships. It really is applicable to anybody who is having relationship difficulty, though we named it Family Reconcile. So I like to make that clear that that is the name, but it's really applicable to any relationship anywhere. Family estrangement, or let's call it relationship estrangement, is nothing new. Wouldn't you agree? Relationship of estrangement or isolation, loneliness, these are things that humankind has dealt with for thousands of years. I think I saw for a while that there was a need in this area outside of traditional therapy, outside of traditional counseling. I never really acted on it until the pandemic. Because the pandemic in effect, exacerbated a critical problem that was already there. It made it even more so. The interesting thing is here we are post-pandemic, right? So to speak, and it hasn't gone away. The loneliness hasn't gone away. The depression hasn't gone away. The isolation hasn't gone away. The estrangement hasn't gone away. I'm looking at studies and statistics from a number of areas saying that children are still struggling with depression and isolation. Adults are still struggling with depression, isolation, feelings of estrangement. So this is all relatively new and raw, and we're trying to work our way through it. But Family Reconcile was established to do its part to combat isolation, depression, loneliness, and estrangement in people's relationships, and to reconnect where possible.
From what you are saying, Brett, it seems like this is addressed to individuals, but I can see a broader scope of application of your methods and your programs, including suicide prevention. And this becomes the issue of public interest. And do you have experience? Is there any local governments interested in the ideas you are doing? What are your potential plans to develop what you are doing with FamilyReconcile.com?
Yes, so I'm home. My home base is out here in Southern California. There is a local county government that is looking currently at Family Reconcile to use or to employ the model, the Family Reconcile model, to combat social isolation. From social isolation, they've noted, comes depression, comes estrangement, comes a loss of connection. So that's been ongoing for some time. We're still working on it. We're still seeing how it might be deployed here locally. It doesn't, and it's not even contained locally. We can apply it wherever. So I'm just trying to get the word out, whether it's to an individual or whether it's to a county government. We have a model that can help fight against and combat relationship disconnection. We're just looking for opportunities to show the model and to show what it's done already. So this is a lot about exposure. Matter of fact, there was just recently on the news, I had been asked just to provide a comment here for the local news area, and they were talking specifically about children coming back, children they've been seeing in the emergency rooms, children dealing with suicidal thoughts. The interviewer asked one of the ER doctors, "How often do you see this?" She says, "We see it on a per shift basis." And the interviewer couldn't even believe that. She was really taken aback. Per shift, they deal with a teenager or below having to come in and be dealt with for suicidal thoughts. So one of the things they notice is there's just not enough resources out there to help these ones. So what ERs are now doing is they're now bringing in therapists to be on site, because the ERs are saying, look, we can't just keep pushing these people out to counselors and therapists who have to wait a year to see these children. We need somebody here right now, right here, right now. So that's where Family Reconcile fits. We're right in there trying to let everybody else know, hey, we're here. This isn't counseling, and it's not therapy. It's mentoring, and it's personal development. It can be professional development too, but it's personal development. It's that connection, building that connection. If we can build connection for people, then we can get them away from isolation, away from estrangement, away from depression, away from loneliness, and ultimately away from any suicidal thoughts.
Yeah, that's really good work, Brett. When it comes to the law, you're a mediator as well, correct? And
yes.
Okay, so you also work in the legal field in a certain capacity where you're trying to help people, resolve their differences. But how does this model that you're explaining differ from that? Because many people are familiar with mediation. It's something that we talk about on this show all the time. How does family reconcile and the work that you do differ?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, Mac. I'll try to answer that the best I can. Hopefully I get somewhere in the ballpark on that. I have past experiences in ombuds. So when we talk about mediation specifically in the workplace, my mind goes to ombuds. So I was an ombuds for a hospitality company or a hotel chain. And I did a couple years working with as a third-party neutral or mediator for their inter-company disputes. That was very interesting. I gained a lot of good experience in that workplace mediator or mediation setting. I've said it in other shows. This is relational work, right? Whether you're a mediator in a civil courtroom or whether you're a mediator in an office workplace, what are you dealing with? You're dealing with relational issues, interpersonal conflict or interpersonal differences. So I don't make much of a distinction myself between all of those. But Family Reconcile really focuses on the relationship. And I'm going to have to say this, the importance of connection. And we've had other shows where I've talked about this, but this is really what it comes down to. People don't generally go and get a divorce because of lack of communication, though that's what they say. Or they don't go and generally get a divorce because of irreconcilable differences, though that's what they mark or say. Usually people's relationships end either in a marriage or on a friendship basis or even in the workplace because of a loss of connection. And that is the main difference between Family Reconcile in an ombuds or mediator position. Is what I'm doing is I'm focusing on reestablishing connection where connection has been lost.
And today, in one of the episodes, we have been talking about elderly mediations and elderly care, and that was with our friend Fran Brochstein. How does your project fit in with things like that? I think that a lot of people would be complaining about their aging parents or aging aunts or uncles that they need to take care of. Do you think that this sort of work can engage also people who are aging, who are not really complying well with the circumstances that surround?
Yeah, our mentoring model, I'd say Family Reconcile's relationship mentoring model is anywhere from a young child where we have the consent of the parents or the parent. We can work with someone there all the way till a living, breathing 99-year-old person who says, look, I'm trying to reconnect with my grandchild, or I'm trying to reconnect with a child. It's everybody in between. So does it work for elderly care? Absolutely. I would say that that's really what fits into the government aspect I was talking about on their social isolation initiative. That's predominantly the predominant demographic in that, although it's not just, but the predominant demographic is those who are older, who have lost contact with relatives or don't have any relatives and don't have any connection with their neighbors, and so they're isolated. And there was a real need for that was sussed out by the government, and this was their attempt to address it, and we're still trying to address it. But anywhere from the high age to the low age with consent, that somebody wants to just apply what they're
broadcasting live from Houston, from the space city to the world. You are watching NowMedia Television.